Okay, so we're going to be doing a found footage movie, Cloverfield, produced by JJ Abrams, directed by Matt Reeves. It was released in 2008, so it's like a really, it's 10 years old now, can you believe it? But anyway, never been a real big fan of the shaky cam. Let's take a look. The old found footage genre, love it or hate it, Cloverfield was one of the biggest ones. Obviously we had Blair Witch back in the day, and Chronicle and Cloverfield are the big three that really spring to mind when you think about found footage movies. Hundreds of imitators. It was like a massive onslaught from Hollywood for a good long while there with these found footage movies, and to be honest, I never really was a fan of it. So this one was written by Drew Goddard, well known for Cabin in the Woods, which is an awesome flick, check it out, and one of the writers with Joss Whedon on Buffy the Vampire Slayer series, which is awesome telly, one of my favourite shows ever. And also directed by Matt Reeves, who would go on to do Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War of the Planet of the Apes, and the upcoming The Batman, maybe starring Ben Affleck. So Matt Reeves is quite the visionary director. I don't necessarily agree with a lot of the techniques he used in this film, but he definitely goes on to bigger and better things. Now, this is produced by JJ Abrams, who would later also go on to produce 10 Cloverfield Lane and The Cloverfield Paradox. He really has quite employed the mystery box in regards to these movies. Cloverfield, when it was released in 2008, had a massive viral internet campaign leading up to the release of the movie. There was only a slight teaser trailer release, which was basically the head of the Statue of Liberty bouncing down through a street, causing destruction, and that was all it was. There was no title, there's nothing, and that was enough to get the public and the audience immensely curious as to what this film was. It was a massive success. The viral campaign worked amazingly well. It has been employed by other films since, but JJ Abrams was one of the first to employ this technique to get bums on seats. Okay, starring Mike Vogel as Jason, Jessica Lucas as Lily, Lizzie Kaplan as Marlena. She's only the real face I recognise in this movie, and funny story is, when she auditioned for this movie, she didn't know what it was. She thought she was auditioning for a romantic comedy, not a monster flick, because all the cast, they weren't allowed to know what the script was, so they actually did the auditions with scripts from JJ Abrams' TV series Alias. Also introducing TJ Miller as Hud, the main cameraman of the movie, Michael Stahl David as Rob, and Odetta Annabelle as Beth. Now, that famous poster for this movie, which is just here, was actually inspired by Escape from New York. The head of that statue is also laying in an abandoned street, so trivia. And there's no musical score in this movie either. There's only one musical cue, and that arrives about 5 minutes into the credits at the very end. And a lot of the footage in this movie is actually filmed by the actors. You can kind of tell, so all the pressure is off Matt Reeves. And one of the main side effects that a lot of the audience were suffering from in this movie when it was released at the theaters is people were leaving sick. There was like 106 cases of people who motion sickness and dizziness, so they had to leave the theater. The shaky cam is, I've never been a fan of it, but it's pretty bad. The movie only goes for about 85 minutes, so it's not too bad. I think they couldn't have gone too much longer. People would have been just dropping like flies otherwise. The monster was designed by Neville Page, and his creation does look a little bit like the monster from the Korean movie The Host. A few similarities, but his idea of the monster is that it's actually like a spooked elephant going on the rampage, suffering from separation anxiety. So the monster is not necessarily malicious. It's just a big spooked animal not knowing where the hell it is. So the movie opens with a disclaimer at the beginning with some text explaining that this film footage actually belongs to the government. It's the property of the government and highly classified, and it's designated Cloverfield. So going straight in, we know that this is found footage and it's of most highest importance. So we open up on 6:42 a.m, April 27, where we have Beth and Rob, who have just had a passionate night together. For some reason, he feels the need to put the camera in her face first thing in the morning. Maybe that's why they break up. This movie is interspersed with footage from their beautiful day out at Coney Island when there's recording breaks in the recording of the monster outbreak. So the backstory of Beth and Rob is they slept together, then something's happened, and now they're no longer together. But I'm telling you, it's because he's got the camera in her face at 6:42 a.m. No chick will like that ever. So anyway, then we cut to Jason and Lily, who are out shopping about with their camera, preparing for Rob's farewell party. He's got a job that has taken him to Japan, so he's leaving. So all his friends are getting together for a party, surprise party. He has no idea.
He's here. Let's go.
And it's just going to be a few shenanigans in regards to HUD being introduced and being designated as the cameraman, played by TJ Miller. This was his first movie. I actually forgot he's in this. You don't actually see his face too much, so that's the reason why. And to be honest, I've never really been a big fan of TJ Miller. I find his comedy kind of abrasive. It just comes across as a bit of a tool to me, although I did enjoy him in Deadpool. So we're also introduced to Marlena, played by Lizzie Kaplan. HUD pretty much just zeroes right in on her and is rude and to the point of arrogance, where he's just hitting on her and shoving the camera in her face, trying to get her to do a testimonial to a guy she barely knows. But yeah, he's really annoying, and she shows the right attitude by kind of like, as soon as her little bit to camera is done, she's like out of there. She wants no part of this guy, and she's off. Can't really blame her, really.
What is this for? It's for Rob. Say something to him before he leaves.
Rob's awesome. I'm gonna miss it. Rob, have fun in Japan.
You owe me $11.
How are you gonna survive without Rob? He's like your main dude.
Yeah, no. Hey, how am I gonna survive without you?
I don't know, I'm like your main dude.
He's annoying. So anyway, Rob turns up to the party. Big surprise. He's got no idea what's going on. He asks if Beth has been invited. Jason, his brother, has said, yeah, she has been invited. Then she turns up with another guy, Travis, played by Ben Feldman, who you eagle-eyed genre fans out there might recognize from Friday the 13th, the remake. He was one of the guys at the beginning of the movie that was killed relatively early by Sack Jason. So obviously Rob is a little bit heartbroken with Beth turning up with another guy. They have a bit of a confrontation. HUD has got the camera in everybody's face. Comes to light that Lily spills the beans that Beth and Rob slept together. So HUD is filming everything and then promptly just goes around to everybody in the party asking if they knew about this rumor. Dude, discretion. So Beth ends up leaving the party early because, you know, things are just a bit narky. And Rob's been a little bit mean to her, like, you know, points for being a gentleman, dude. So Rob and Jason go out onto the fire escape and have a bit of a chat, and we're getting a nice view of the city. The HDR in this is really, really nice, although the film is a little bit grainy in shots. The camera work was done on like actual video cameras, so the footage is really grainy, especially when it zooms in on some of the cityscapes in the background. I don't know if it was just my TV set or not, but it was really kind of like a lot of artifacting and didn't look really pretty. It cleans up a lot during the course of the movie, and the HDR does improve a fair bit, but there were some scenes where it was definitely fairly shady looking. So we're actually 18 minutes into the movie, just kind of all this, I'll be honest, dull party stuff. We were just kind of getting introduced to the characters before the first explosion happens, and there's a massive rumble and everybody freaks out, the lights flicker. What
was that noise?
It sounded like an animal.
Yeah, just relax. Everything.
We got the first sign of the monster. There's a massive roar, and everybody immediately knows that something is not quite right in Kansas. News reports are insinuating that maybe it was an earthquake in the harbor.
Phone calls are pouring into the New York One newsroom as a thunderous roaring sound.
Can you see something from the roof?
A tanker has reportedly been overturned. All the party goes up onto the roof to see what's going on. There's more explosions and a loud screaming noise.
What animal sounds like that? Like shaking everywhere, man. It's like tremors.
Looks like you should have left town a little bit earlier.
And then everyone kind of makes their way down to the street when all the power suddenly goes out because something's really gone quite wrong. They're down on the street, and that's when we get the iconic shot of the the head of the Statue of Liberty bouncing off buildings, flying down towards our people, and crash landing on the street and skidding to a halt.
What is it? Is it coming this way?
I saw it. It's alive. It's huge. No. Anybody see Jason?
It's all scratched up and chewed up and does not look good at all. And of course, the camera is just there filming everything. Chaos ensues, the monsters roaring and screaming, and a building is actually knocked down with scenes very reminiscent of 9/11. The building collapses, and then there's like a massive dust cloud which comes and encases everyone. People run into convenience stores for shelter.
Rob, I saw it. Rob, it's alive.
Roaring and screaming is just absolute chaos. It's just a mess. We find Marlena out in the street covered with dust, and she's dazed and confused, and the group get back together and they decide that they really need to get out of the city. They want to go towards Brooklyn Bridge. So a massive mob of people start heading in the one direction towards the bridge, hoping to get out of town. Then we have a plot point where Rob's phone's not working, so they're walking towards the bridge. Suddenly he does get a signal. Jason gets separated from the group as he's dragged further by the mob along the bridge.
Hey, yo, come on. Okay, Beth, you're going to have to calm down, okay?
The HDR is looking amazing here as well. The night scenes and the cityscape are just popping off the screen. The Brooklyn Bridge, it looks amazing. And then suddenly we've got a massive tail swooping down out of the sky, crashing into the bridge, snapping it in half, killing bunches of people. And everyone's running and trying to get off the bridge as it's swaying and collapsing. And we've got jets and helicopters flying overhead, shooting at the monster, and there's massive explosions. A lot of carnage, but pretty cool. And before the attack on the bridge, Rob actually got through to Beth, and he found out that she's actually still in her apartment and she's screaming for help, and he's decided that that's where he's going to go next. So after the attack on the bridge, they find themselves down in the subway. They kind of decided that the best way to get across is through the tunnels. We had a few dramatic beats where Rob's mum calls, and he has to tell her over the phone that Jason is dead, and he breaks down. But part of the conceit of these found footage movies is that the person with the camera never puts the fucking camera down. They're filming all the time in the most inappropriate moments, and I just can't buy the conceit of it. It just seems ridiculous to me that people would do that. It's not a normal human response in a time of crisis, in like a personal environment. You don't just stick a camera up in people's faces when they're getting this kind of terrible news. It's just rude. And so now we've got our intrepid crew walking through a tunnel. Everybody seems to be over Jason's death pretty quickly. And then one of the things I saw in a news report before they head down into the tunnel is the monster crushing and trampling through New York City, and there's these things falling off of it, like big parasite monsters dropping off the monster and attacking the army. So these little parasite creatures are all through the tunnels. Our crew are walking through, having some inane chitter-chatter. The camera is on them all the time.
Hey, do you guys remember a couple of years ago when that guy was lighting homeless people on fire in the subway?
Jesus, Hud.
What?
Maybe not the best topic for conversation down here.
Right.
And Marlena gets attacked by a parasite which cuts her shoulder up pretty badly, and she's bleeding quite a lot. They find refuge in a little, looks like a staff room down in the tunnels, which has also got a ladder leading up into the main complex. But Hud and Marlena have a little bit of one-on-one time where she's trying to stop the bleeding. She's obviously in a lot of pain, and it's pouring out of her. Perfect time for Hud to hit on her, apparently. Camera in her face, and he's flirting. And anyway, so they decide to go up the ladder, and they're in a department store, and there's a really bright light shining in on them from a doorway at the entrance of the department store, and it's like, and it looks amazing. The 4K and the HDR really shine, pardon the pun, in this moment. It looks amazing. It really is quite very clear. Yeah, it's got some shady moments in some scenes, but a majority of this film looks stunning. The HDR really cleans it up a lot. A lot of inky blacks because it's all filmed at night. The night seems amazing, and yeah, the colors of the t-shirts and the neon signs and the fires, phenomenal. Anyway, they run into the army, and they've got a triage set up just outside the department store, and they're like being taken through, and Rob is desperate to go and find Beth on the other side of the city, and the army's not giving him any help, and they're doing their military thing, you know, go here, go there, and meanwhile, Marlena suddenly turns to HUD and she goes, I do not feel good, and she's got blood pouring out of her face.
I don't feel so good.
The military personnel suddenly shout, we've got a bite, and they kind of drag her off roughly into like a tent, and we see a silhouette, and we just get a nice explosion of blood. And Marlena is obviously fucked up, but you know, Beth is the main mission, so fuck you, Marlena, we're moving on to Beth. And the crew are told by one of the other military personnel that there is a point in the city somewhere where they've got to be by 6 a.m. sharp for a chopper to take them out of the city. And then off they go to find Beth. And they find Beth's building. He's kind of like leaning over onto another building.
Approximately 7 hours ago, something attacked the city.
And they're kind of trying to determine how the hell they're going to get up and rescue Beth. And HUD, who has never listened to ever, he doesn't have any good ideas, actually mentions to the guys, well, how about we go up the OK building, go to the roof and kind of find our way down. And they're like, good idea. And he's like, but no, wait, nobody ever listens to me. So they climb up the building, and in a pretty good set piece, they go up like 49 floors or something, and then they find the top of the building resting on the others, on that building that they're in, and they have to get out and cross over this precarious incline to get into the building that Beth lives in. And all the while, HUD is still holding the fucking camera. It's precarious. There's a drop like 40 floors down to your right, and you need both hands to hold on to get to where you're going, and his camera is just... I just can't buy it. I just can't. I'm trying, but I just don't. I never have. So they get into the building. They find Beth's apartment. Her apartment's been ransacked. There's a massive gaping hole in the side of her apartment leading out into, you know, night air, and they find her unconscious, impaled on rebar. They wake her up. Rob has a little bit of a moment with her. Of course, the camera's right in their face. He's finally told to put the camera down while they lift Beth up off the rebar, which is, you know, about time, but it's picked up pretty quick again. They get her off. For a wound of that significance, I'd imagine once you pull the metal rebar out that you would potentially bleed out. Not a problem. Now they've got to make their way back over to the upright building to get back down again. They encounter a couple parasites on the way. Yeah, a bit of adventure. Once again, the camera's never put down. And on the way down, the monster's coming right at them because it's been bombed by the army. So a lot of peril. They get to the bottom of the building. They escape. They run out. They get to the destination where the choppers are. They get separated from Lily. She gets into the first chopper and she's taken up, and they're on the next one. So we've got HUD, Beth, and Rob, who are left behind. They get into the next chopper, where we get some nice visuals, some nice aerial shots of the monster rampaging through the city, and we've got a stealth bomber dropping bombs on the thing.
Oh my god! Are you guys seeing this right now? Are you seeing this right now? Look. Are you guys seeing this shit right now? Oh my god! Oh god! Oh god! Oh god. Those aren't gonna hit us, are they? Oh my god, they hit it! They just hit it right now! Look, you guys, they just hit it! They hit it with...
There's a firestorm. It's really pretty. It looks really, really nice. The effects are great. The monster looks great, although a little weird looking though, I must admit. I never really did fall in love with the design, but to each their own. Looks great. The HDR really shines with all the fire. The chopper's up above, and suddenly the monster, when we think the monster's destroyed, leaps up out of the smoke and flames, bites the helicopter. Helicopter promptly crashes. They're screaming and, oh my god, I'm sorry, all the way down. Crash lands. Camera's still running. Laying still for a couple minutes while we're just kind of like wait for people to wake up. HUD wakes up first, grabs the camera first thing, and then they drag him. Rob out, who's hurt his leg.
Okay, all right, I got it. Come on.
Rob is being helped off by HUD and Beth, and then HUD suddenly stops because he's forgotten the camera.
All right, listen, we gotta get out of here, okay? We just gotta get away from here because I think it's gonna explode. All right, come on. Okay, let's go this way. Come on, you come on. Okay, wait a second. What?
Comes back, gets it, and that's when the monster appears right above him, and he's kind of like looking up at this monster, and it's looking down, so we get the best view of the thing. Looks great, but just like I said, I don't really like the design. Monster grabs HUD, chews him up with the camera inside his mouth. The camera drops down, and HUD lands next to the camera, chewed up and dead. So then we have Beth and Rob, sole survivors, grab the camera, run up to this tunnel where they sit down and they say goodbyes to the camera, to their loved ones, saying who they are, what the time is, and it's May 23rd, 6:42 a.m. So it starts and ends on the same time frame. And there's an explosion. Gravel falls down. Last thing we hear them say is, I love you, and then explosion. Gravel falls in, dead. And then we get one final scene with the footage from their Coney Island experience where they're on a Ferris wheel. He's holding the camera out like a selfie.
We got like 3 seconds left. What do you want to say? Last thing speaking.
I had a good day.
Roll credits. So it might have sounded like I was ragging on this film. Like, I do have a lot of problems with it, but for sheer spectacle and entertainment, yeah, I really do enjoy the hell out of this movie. I think I did a quick spot when I was reviewing the Cloverfield Paradox where I explained how when this movie came out, I was so suckered in by all the viral marketing that I actually took a sick day at work when I was working at Woolies back in the day, a long time ago, and went to go see this movie because I was just so excited to see something really different and new and not really know anything about it. I was really sucked into the mystery. So yeah, I chucked a sickie and went and saw this movie. And I think I still have the same experience with the movie then as I do now. So like, I enjoyed it, but yeah, it's definitely got flaws. Like I could never really embrace the found footage movies. Like the shaky cam is just, it bugs me. Like it doesn't make me sick or distress me like it does a lot of the other people, but it's just kind of hard to keep a focus on what's going on. And the whole conceit that somebody would have a camera and never put it down, like just recording all the time, it's not natural. It's not realistic. Yeah, I'm a YouTuber. I've got my camera. I like to go out and do stuff with it all the time, but just some scenes just don't play true to me in regards to just having the camera constantly running. Like if you just survived a helicopter crash, it's not going to be the first thing you do is grab your camera and film everything. You want to make sure your friends are okay. I'm just saying. So rating Cloverfield, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, only because I do enjoy it for what it is. It's a silly monster movie, unique format. At the time, the found footage genre was still relatively new. It was an interesting experiment, and yeah, I did enjoy it for what it was. Like the mystery box really suckered me in, so I enjoyed the film for what it is. To be honest, I'm totally glad that the found footage genre seems to be done and dusted. Chronicle is the only one I can mention to you that I've talked about before, and the Blair Witch Project, but everything else is just cheap imitations and crap and not really worth your time. So, and the 4K and the HDR, like I said, amazing. If you're looking at double dipping, yeah, definitely pick it up. It looks really great in the format. It's beautiful. So anyway, guys, thanks for checking into my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, throw me a thumbs up, leave a comment down below. I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.